We can actually use emulators. Now, technically an emulator is something that would produce a virtual machine instance of an ARM processor. And so the emulator, the benefit is that it gives us sort of a cheap version. Another thing that emulators do, which is really phenomenal, because it's a virtual machine instance, is I can take a snapshot of the state of it and then keep rolling back to that snapshot. Super useful. Like if I'm doing testing, if I'm doing exploit dev or something like that, and I can have a snapshot just before it, and I can keep changing stuff and then get right back to that spot. Whereas with hardware, there's really no easy way for me to make a snapshot and push it onto the hardware. In terms of this, if I have malware, which has emulator-based detection, and it has a whole bunch of obfuscation around that, and I'm trying to assess it, it's going to be really hard for me to make that work inside of an emulator. So I may need to push that onto hardware to do it. In terms of the emulators with the APIs, the programmatic interface calls, it may be that I don't get the actual one. Okay, so when I'm working in an emulator, I may be developing something, but I'm developing in an environment that is actually different than when I bring it to the hardware. Okay, and this is the way that emulators and simulators were actually created initially. Why do emulators and simulators exist? For developers. The whole point of this is to give developers an opportunity to test their code before they put it on hardware, because it's a cheap and easy and portable way in order to do that. And both of the emulators, or the simulator and the emulator that I'll talk about, both are really developer tools that we're just leveraging for our purposes. In terms of the emulators and simulators, they tend to be slower than the actual hardware. And then in terms of this, we also have sort of a higher risk. I have bricked hardware. In terms of emulators, you screw it up, just blow it away and make a new one, no big deal. Good. And then the last thing is your emulators and simulators are already rooted or jailbroken. Right? The image that comes with that is rooted. Why? Well, because as a developer, you want full control of that, and they're giving you an operating system instance that shows you here's what all this stuff is. And you can see the full file system. The phones, on the other hand, need to be rooted or jailbroken in order to have that same level of access. Okay? So this is how you make the choice. What's the optimal choice? Have both, right? I mean, have both so that you can do whatever you need to do. If you want something that you can do lots of snapshots and you can do it quickly and you can revert to that snapshot, then the emulator is the right tool for that.